As I talk about this show, please note that it is understood that a certain amount of producer manipulation is present, and I can only talk about events as they are edited and presented on this show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever or wherever you are watching. Let's get into the Courtship episode 4, 2 New Suitors. When we last left off, 2 new suitors just walked through the door, and the remaining suitors were not happy about this. Mr. Castronovo says that he's fighting for his life to stay in the running for Miss Remy's hand, and 2 new men just walked through the door. The first new suitor is Dr. Hatem from Northern Ireland. The second is Mr. Judge from Michigan. Miss Remy is attracted to both of them. She refers to them as hot in her interview. The next day, the men are talking ish about the 2 new suitors. The 2 new suitors are trying to pick Mr. Bochicho's brain, but he's not giving in to them. Everyone receives a notification that they are to attend a country fair. We still have these in New England. There's a huge one called the Big E. The men are told they must impress Miss Cleary and Mrs. Baker because they are the ones who will choose the next one-on-one date. They play various games, but the tug of war is the most important because the winners will get to have happy hour with Mrs. Baker and Miss Cleary, who again decide who gets to go on a one-on-one date with Miss Remy. The next game is called Hit the Nail on the Head. The prize is time at the kissing booth with Miss Remy. The germaphobe in me is squirming inside. We're still in a global pandemonium. I cannot with this. Anyway, Mr. Shanklin can't hit the nail. Danny B nails it. I'm calling him Danny B from now on too, so I can stop butchering his last name. Mr. Cones hits the nail, but not all the way in. Why does this sound so sexual? Mr. Chapman nails it. As he gets his kiss, Danny B is visibly upset. Mrs. Baker asks him if he's going to be okay. He says, "I'm alright." Mr. Kim was so close, almost all the way in. Almost. That sounds so nasty, doesn't it? I'm literally talking about hammering a single nail, but it's truly acting as a metaphor for something else, isn't it? Next is Dr. Hatem. He tries and fails to hammer the nail, but he does a backflip and Miss Remy kisses him for that, which makes Captain Kim start hating on him from the sidelines. Someone says he's cheating. It sounded like Mr. Holland, but I'm not sure. Captain Kim is still mad. He says that this is bullshit. He is so vexed. Mr. Castronovo tries to impress Miss Remy with conversation, and Miss Remy's parents really like him. Danny B tries to speak with her parents. They are concerned about his level of commitment. Mr. Shanklin sings again to Miss Remy. The other men are visibly irritated by this. Mr. Shanklin continues to audition for American Idol during his interview. Then Danny B tries to press Miss Remy to choose him. She knows that he is also vexed by the 2 new guys. For what I'm seeing here, the most shook guys seem to be Mr. Casanova, Danny B, and Captain Kim. They need to be more confident. But also to me, this is a good sign because it may mean that they really want to be with her and aren't here just to be on TV. Miss Remy has a picnic with Mr. Combs. She asks him if he ever dated a black woman before. He says of course he has. She talks about being a black girl in high school and not only the white guys not asking her out, but the biracial and fully black guys also not wanting to date black girls. I felt her on that. It's really weird. Even in non-dating spaces, it seems that some black guys won't even make eye contact or say hello in passing. You can't even be cordial anymore? Ew. What gross behavior. Anyways, Mr. Cohn says that despite his hardships, that he realized that none of them have been due to the color of his skin, meaning that he recognizes his privilege. We love to see it. He says, "We have to do better," in a way that sounds super rehearsed to me, but I don't care because it needed to be said. I would rather watch rehearsed positive messages on reality television than rehearsed drink throwing and fights, but that's just me. Mr. Combs is happy to have gotten closer to Miss Remy. To me, they are believable together. The next day, Miss Remy goes fencing with the 4 men Mrs. Baker and Miss Cleary have chosen. They are Mr. Chapman, Mr. Judge, Mr. Mumbre, and Dr. Hatem. 2 stunt fencers put on a demonstration that was pretty cool. Then they teach them some moves. Mr. Chapman wants to have a go at Dr. Hatem. Danny B and Mr. Hunter play pool or billiards, not sure which, and they're discussing being insecure about their standing with Miss Remy since the arrival of the 2 new suitors. Meanwhile, Miss Remy sits and talks with Dr. Hatem, who tells her that he is an ER doctor, he does parkour, he's a pilot, and he's the stand-in for Judge Reinhold. If you got that 30-year-old joke, we can be friends. Back at the gentleman's parlor, Captain Kim talks to Mr. Cones about his lack of confidence. He's still talking about how his first love hurt him. You are a grown-ass man and you're still talking about the girl you dated in middle school and high school. This is like the 3rd time you've mentioned this on the show. Get therapy. Mr. Chapman talks to Miss Remy. Something about mountains in a small town. I'm sorry he's so dreadfully boring. I checked out halfway through whatever he was talking about. When Mr. Judge talks to Miss Chapman, he says that he's from a small town from Michigan with only 800 people. He alludes to some issues he had growing up. I was like, oh no, he's gonna trauma dump on her like Mr. King did. If y'all don't seek therapy, do men know that professional help is available and that therapists exist? Just asking. Anyway, he awkwardly tries to kiss Miss Remy, but Mr. Mumbre blocks him like a pro, and they have a refreshing lemonade together. Miss Remy then meets with Mrs. Baker and Miss Cleary to let them know what all is going on. They discuss the Elimination Dance. Finally, it's dance time. This week, Miss Remy is featuring a sky blue empire waist gown with a sheer overlay adorned with pearl beading. The skirting on the gown has embroidered flowers and it is beautiful as usual. She chooses for her dance card Mr. Castronovo, Mr. Shanklin, Captain Kim, and Mr. Bocchicchio, or Danny B. Before she starts dancing, I'm thinking it's going to be Mr. Shanklin and Danny B going home. The men seem to think Danny B is going home as well. Was I right? Were they right? She dances with Captain Kim. He tells her he was upset seeing her kiss other guys, and she lets him stay. I think she just likes dancing with Mr. Kim at this point, because she stays putting him on the card and never sending him home, so I think she just wants to dance with him. Next, she dances with Mr. Shanklin, who must be slow, because he tells her that if she sends him home, that she's making a big mistake. She literally sent the last two guys home who said that to her. Are you even paying attention? She sends him on his way. As she should. Next, Danny B dances with her and twirls her around and recaptures her heart. I meant her pussy. She is in lust with him. Her parents are disappointed that she seemingly chose Danny B over Mr. Castronovo. She dances a farewell dance with Mr. Castronovo and says that she didn't feel his Italian passion. Why does she keep saying that? It's coming off hella fetishy. Danny B is also Italian and she doesn't call his passion specifically Italian. It's weird. Anyway, he is very gracious about his dismissal and tells her that he wishes her well and that she deserves to find love. Her mother is crying seeing Mr. Castronovo leave, as her parents liked him far more than Danny B. The preview for next week shows another arrival, but does not show us who it is. And that's where my notes end. Thank you for watching. What did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, one love.